Chapter 1. The Fall of the Iron General. The battlefield reeked of iron and smoke. Under the crimson dawn, General Adrian Vale stood tall atop a ridge of broken spears, his armor streaked with blood, his golden insignia glinting through the ash. Behind him, the Vale battalion roared his name, their voices carrying across the valley like thunder. "Victory! The rebels have fallen!" the lieutenant shouted. Adrian didn't smile. He never did. He simply raised his blade, letting the soldiers' cheers wash over him like a storm. "Collect the wounded, and burn the rest. We end this war cleanly," he ordered. Even after years of command, the weight of glory sat strangely on his shoulders. He was the nation's Iron General, untouchable, unshaken, an alpha whose scent alone made enemies flinch. Pride and control were his armor, and he'd never allowed either to crack. But that night something did. The victory camp blazed with celebration. Fires flickered, ale spilled, and the smell of alpha pheromones hung thick in the air. Adrian sat apart in his tent, examining a small relic retrieved from the enemy's shrine. A black, stone disc etched with faint golden veins, pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Strange piece, the prisoners said it was cursed. Supposed to humble the proud, whatever that means, muttered Lieutenant Darren, setting down a report. Adrian snorted. Superstitious nonsense. He turned the disc over. Still, craftsmanship like this doesn't belong in rebel hands. I'll take it to headquarters myself. Understood, General. When Darren left, silence filled the tent. Outside, laughter echoed, and for the first time in weeks, Adrian allowed himself to relax. He removed his gloves, placed the relic on the table, and poured himself a cup of tea. The disc flickered. Adrian frowned. What? Light burst from the center, swallowing the tent in gold. The air split with a sharp crack, and the cup shattered in his hand. His vision blurred, ears ringing as a heavy scent, sweet, unbearably sweet, filled his lungs. He stumbled backward, reaching for his sword, but his fingers no longer obeyed. His body felt wrong, lighter, smaller, and then everything went dark. He woke to the sound of someone breathing beside him. Shallow, nervous, human. His eyes opened to dim light, rough blankets, and the faint scent of soap and pine. A barracks bunk. Not his tent. What? His voice caught. It wasn't his voice. It was soft, fragile. He pushed himself up and froze. Small hands, smooth skin. His body, his entire body, was wrong. Panic clawed up his throat. No. No, no, no. A shout came from the doorway. Eli? You're awake. Adrian turned sharply. A soldier stood there, young, broad-shouldered, eyes wide in confusion. Eli? The man repeated, stepping closer. You fainted in the mess hall. Are you all right, Eli? His mind reeled. The quiet Omega clerk who always lingered near the supply tents? I'm in his... Adrian's vision swam again. Get out now, he managed. The soldier blinked. Eli, I said, get out. The command came out high-pitched and trembling, but something in his tone made the man obey instantly, retreating with wide eyes. When the door shut, Adrian clutched the blanket around him and forced himself to breathe. His scent, light, sweet, undeniably Omega, filled the room. The reality hit him with brutal clarity. The Iron General, Alpha of the Northern Legion, was trapped in the body of a trembling Omega soldier. He pressed a shaking hand to his temple, jaw tight. When I find that damned relic again, I'm burning it to ash, he muttered. But in the next bunk, he noticed movement. His own massive body, breathing evenly, asleep under the sheets. And when that body stirred and muttered, General? In a low, bewildered voice, Adrian's blood ran cold. Chapter 2. The Panic and the Proof. The world was heavy. Eli Rowan woke with a groan and an ache in every limb. His first thought was that he'd overslept for drills again. His second was that his bunk felt suspiciously small. When he sat up, the bed frame groaned and split beneath him. What? His voice rumbled low, deep, and wrong. He blinked down at his hands. Large, scarred, calloused. His arms were solid muscle. His legs stuck out a mile past the blanket. His heart lurched. This isn't my body. He stumbled to his feet and nearly punched through the low ceiling of his shared barracks. The entire wall creaked when his shoulder brushed it. He froze. No, no, this can't. The wall gave way with a loud crack. The next moment, his entire bunk collapsed into the hallway. Soldiers screamed. Someone shouted, "Earthquake!" Another yelled, "Alpha attack!" Eli stared in horror at the splintered boards and the soldiers gaping at him. I didn't mean to." His voice thundered, impossibly deep, vibrating the air. Then the scent hit him. Sharp, commanding, unmistakably Alpha. His scent. No Adrian's. Across the camp, in a quiet infirmary tent, Adrian Vale, currently in Eli's much smaller, trembling Omega body, was losing his mind. He'd spent the past 10 minutes trying to lace his borrowed boots and failing miserably. The hands were too small, the scent too sweet, everything too fragile. Then came the roar from outside, the unmistakable, deep voice of his own body. Adrian's eyes snapped open. "Oh, for the love of—" He bolted out the door, almost tripping over his own cloak, and found chaos spreading through camp. Soldiers ran in circles, shouting about the general's sudden rage. In the middle of it stood his massive Alpha body. His body, covered in dust, looking absolutely panicked. "Eli," Adrian hissed, storming forward. Eli turned, eyes wide. "General, keep your voice down," Adrian snapped, tugging him into a nearby supply tent. "Do you have any idea what you've just done?" Eli's mouth opened, then closed again. "I woke up like this. I swear I didn't. You were just lying there, and then I—" "Stop!" Adrian pinched the bridge of his nose. The gesture looked ridiculous in Eli's small, delicate body. "We switched. Somehow. The relic." Eli nodded miserably. "You're in me and I'm in you." "Don't phrase it like that," Adrian growled. Eli winced. "Sorry." Adrian paced. "We'll fix this quietly. No one can know. If word spreads that the Iron General turned into a trembling Omega, people might panic," Eli offered. "People might revolt." Before Adrian could form a plan, someone called from outside, "General Vale, are you unharmed?" Eli froze. "They think I'm you. Then act like me. Commanding. Cold. Don't smile." Adrian hissed. Eli straightened, puffed out his chest, and marched out with all the stiff dignity he could muster. "Soldier," he said gravely, his deep voice wobbling. "The wall was weak. I merely tested it." The soldiers blinked. "Tested it, sir?" "Yes, and it failed. Reinforce all walls immediately," Eli said, louder now. The men saluted, sprinting off to obey. Adrian covered his face inside the tent, half mortified, half impressed. A moment later, Eli ducked back in, grinning sheepishly. "I think they bought it." "Don't grin like that in my face. You'll ruin my reputation," Adrian muttered. Eli's smile faded instantly. "Sorry," Adrian sighed. "Just stay near me. We'll figure this out before anyone realizes we've swapped bodies." Both turned to see Lieutenant Darren standing in the entrance, eyes wide, staring between the trembling Omega General and the towering Eli. Adrian and Eli spoke at the same time. "It's not what it looks like." Darren blinked. "Then why is the General wearing an Omega's uniform?" Adrian groaned. "Because fate has a terrible sense of humor." By nightfall, the entire camp was whispering. Some claimed the General had taken a secret lover. Others insisted he'd been cursed. And somewhere in the dark, the black relic pulsed faintly, its golden veins beating like a heart. Chapter 3: The Body Test. Night cloaked the camp in uneasy quiet. After a full day of dodging rumors and suspicious glances, Adrian and Eli finally slipped into an empty storage tent near the edge of the valley. The flickering lantern light threw long shadows across crates of rations and spare armor. Eli shut the flap carefully. "No one followed us. Good, we're gonna sort this out logically." I'll observe, you'll report. Adrian muttered, pacing. Report what? Everything. Your body. My body. Whatever this is. He grimaced. Eli nodded nervously. Right? So, what's first? Adrian crossed his arms. We test control. I need to know if this body is stable. He stood straight, took a deep breath, and tried to project authority. The effect was less than intimidating. His omega lungs trembled, and the exhale came out soft, almost melodic. Eli blinked. You sound gentle. Adrian scowled. I sound wrong. He stalked closer, glaring up at his own towering alpha body. Now you stand still. I'll check your scent output. Scent what? Instinct regulation. Adrian inhaled, then paused. Something warm prickled at the back of his throat. A strange sweetness bloomed through his chest, spreading fast. His vision swam. General? Eli asked. Adrian froze. Heat. It wasn't ordinary warmth. It pulsed beneath his skin, rising like fire. His entire body flushed. What's happening? Oh no. Eli's eyes widened. That's a scent wave. Omegas sometimes. What? Adrian staggered back, clutching his chest. That's impossible. I control my instincts. Not in that body, you don't. The air thickened. Adrian's pheromones, light, dizzying, painfully sweet, spilled into the tent, fogging the air like honeyed smoke. Eli swayed, throat tightening from the intensity. Suppress it. Do something. Adrian barked. I don't know how. You're an alpha now. Figure it out. Adrian snapped, face burning. Eli panicked, stepped closer, and without thinking, placed a hand on Adrian's shoulder. His own pheromones surged instinctively, deep and grounding, wrapping around Adrian's fluttering scent like a steady tide. The effect was immediate. The trembling eased. Adrian's breath hitched, eyes fluttering shut as the world steadied. The air was thick, warm, unbearably intimate. They froze. Too close. Too much. Eli's hand jerked away. Sorry. I didn't. Adrian scrambled backward, snatched the nearest blanket off a crate, and threw it over himself like armor. Don't you dare come closer. Eli blinked. I was just trying to help. Help from there. I will not be handled like some overheating debutante. Adrian barked from beneath the blanket. Eli bit his lip, half worried, half laughing. You kind of sound like one right now. Eli Rowan, I swear. Adrian's muffled voice dropped to a low growl. If I had my sword, I'd cut yourself. Eli offered innocently. There was a dangerous silence from under the blanket. Then a quiet, defeated sigh. Adrian peeked out, cheeks flushed, pride in shambles. This body is a menace. Eli smiled gently. It's just new. You'll adjust. Never, if anyone asks. I'm meditating. On strategy. Adrian muttered, tugging the blanket tighter. Eli chuckled. Under a blanket? On strategy, Rowan. For a long moment, neither spoke. The air still carried a trace of their mingled scents. One sharp and grounding, one sweet and unsteady. Something inside both of them felt quietly altered. Eli cleared his throat. We'll find a way to fix it. Together. Adrian looked away, muttering, You'd better. But when Eli turned to leave, Adrian found himself glancing after him. An unfamiliar flutter twisting in his chest. It had to be the pheromones. Obviously. Chapter 4, The Cover Story. By morning, the entire camp buzzed with rumors. The general's tent was off-limits. The Omega clerk was sick, and the Iron General had apparently taken on a mysterious new assistant. Adrian sat behind his desk, trapped in Eli's small body, massaging his temple. I commanded legions, now I'm playing secretary, he muttered. Across from him, Eli, currently occupying Adrian's imposing alpha frame, tried to look natural while holding a quill like it might explode. I can't write in your handwriting. It looks like a chicken attacked the page, he whispered. Then don't write. Just stand there and look authoritative. Adrian hissed. I'm trying. Eli said through gritted teeth. His shoulders were too square, his posture too rigid. He looked less like a commander and more like an oversized recruit pretending to be one. Outside, soldiers marched by, sneaking curious glances through the tent flap. Their eyes lingered on the petite assistant, who stood beside the general's desk, head down, clearly uncomfortable. "Who's that Omega with the general?" one soldier murmured. "New aide, I heard. Smells kinda like the general, though. Smells exactly like him. Wait, you think they're?" By noon, half the camp was whispering about their secret affair. Eli nearly dropped a report when a medic winked at him. "Good for you, sir. Didn't think the general had it in him to pick a mate," the man said cheerfully. Eli turned bright red. "What? No. We're not." The medic only laughed and left. Eli stormed into the command tent. "They think we're mated." Adrian didn't even look up from his papers. "Excellent. That will make them stop prying." "Stop?" Eli spluttered. "General, that's not something you can just. Relax. Let them gossip. Better that than discovering the truth." Adrian paused, then smirked faintly. "Besides, you'd be the one stuck with my reputation." Eli groaned and flopped into a chair. "I don't know how you handle this pressure. Decades of practice, and a severe lack of patience." A knock at the tent interrupted them. Lieutenant Darren entered, saluting stiffly. "General Vale, reports from the Western Post." Also, his gaze flicked toward Adrian's smaller form. "Your assistant." Adrian forced a smile that felt too soft for his usual demeanor. "Yes, Lieutenant?" Darren hesitated. "Forgive me, sir, but the new Omega's scent is rather strong. Perhaps you should, keep your distance during meetings." Eli choked. Adrian's eye twitched. "Noted," he said through clenched teeth. When Darren left, silence hung heavy. Eli rubbed the back of his neck. "I think our scents synced a little last night, when I helped suppress your—" "Don't finish that sentence," Adrian cut in. His cheeks flushed. "This situation is already unbearable." Eli tried not to laugh. "You're doing great, sir." Adrian shot him a look sharp enough to cut steel. "If I hear one more soldier mention mating, I'm assigning you to latrine duty." That afternoon, the rumors only grew. Some swore they saw the general brushing his assistant's hair. Others insisted they shared a tent at night. By sunset, Adrian sat behind his desk fuming, while Eli handed him reports. "We're a joke," Adrian muttered. Eli smiled faintly. "At least they're smiling again. They were terrified of you before." "I preferred fear," Adrian said dryly. "You say that, but you haven't yelled at anyone all day." Eli murmured. Adrian glanced up, startled to realize it was true. Eli's calm, his quiet steadiness, had softened the atmosphere around him. Even the soldiers seemed more relaxed. He cleared his throat. "Awkward. Don't get used to it." Eli's lips curved in a small, knowing grin. "Of course not, General." Outside, the evening breeze carried the mingled traces of their scents. Alpha and Omega, perfectly intertwined. Somewhere, a soldier whispered, "They're definitely mated." Inside, Adrian groaned and dropped his head onto the desk. "I hate this camp." Eli's laugh was soft, genuine. "You'll live." Adrian lifted his head, giving him a long, measured look. "For your sake, Rowan, I'd better." Chapter 5, Training Day Disaster. The morning sun rose on a restless camp. Whispers still followed them like smoke, but Adrian was determined to restore order. "You're leading the drills today," he said, adjusting his borrowed cloak. Eli, currently trapped in the Iron General's towering body, blinked. "Me? In front of everyone. You're me, you must act like me." Firm voice, sharp gaze. "Terrify someone if necessary." Adrian reminded him, crossing his arms. "I don't terrify people," Eli said weakly. "Exactly the problem, now go. And try not to smile." Adrian muttered. The training field buzzed with anticipation. Soldiers straightened as General Vale strode in, broad-shouldered, imposing, sunlight glinting off his armor. Eli's stomach churned. He tried to channel Adrian's cold confidence. "Good morning," he began, voice deep and commanding. "We'll start with formation drills and, team spirit." The men blinked. One whispered, "Did he just say team spirit?" Adrian, watching from the sidelines disguised as the assistant, buried his face in his hands. Eli clapped once, awkwardly. Form rose. "And remember, everyone's efforts matter." To everyone's surprise, the soldiers grinned. His tone, gentle but steady, made them eager to please. When one tripped, Eli immediately helped him up. "No harm done, we're all learning," he said kindly. By mid-morning, morale was the highest it had been in months. Adrian glared from the shade. "They're not supposed to like me this much," he muttered. Then it happened. A pair of young soldiers on break whispered just loud enough for everyone to hear. "Hard to believe the general's so soft now. Maybe it's that Omega assistant's fault." The words barely hit the air before the temperature seemed to drop. Eli froze. Something primal, ancient, and deeply alpha stirred inside him. His vision narrowed. Every instinct screamed protect. His jaw clenched. "Repeat that," he said softly. The men looked up and instantly regretted it. Eli's pheromones burst like a shockwave. The air shimmered with the dense, electric weight of dominance. The soldiers stumbled back, eyes wide. Every Omega within 50 meters collapsed to their knees. Even the other alphas stiffened, sweating. Across the field, Adrian's small Omega body tensed. "Oh no! Oh no! Rowan!" he shouted, sprinting toward him. "Stop releasing!" Eli blinked, horrified. I don't know how." His scent rolled out again, sharper this time, a thunderclap of command. One soldier fainted outright. Another fell into a training pit. The horses broke free of their reins. Adrian reached him and smacked his arm. "Control it. You're flattening the entire battalion." "I can't. It's your body," Eli cried. "My body doesn't lose control," Adrian snapped. "Then maybe your instincts are mad about the insult." The words clicked, and Adrian froze. His alpha instincts, currently inside Eli, had reacted to the slight against him. Or rather, against Adrian's Omega form. "Fantastic. My body defends my honor without permission," Adrian muttered. The scent wave finally thinned, leaving the training field littered with groaning soldiers and overturned equipment. The only ones left standing were Eli, shaking, and Adrian, glaring up at him. From somewhere near the mess tent, Darren called weakly, "General Vale, permission to breathe again?" Adrian sighed. "Granted." Eli slumped, mortified. "I'm so sorry." Adrian pinched the bridge of his nose. "Tomorrow, you're forbidden from speaking, leading, or even breathing near the troops." "But they were doing so well," Eli said faintly. "They're unconscious. How do you define well?" Adrian snapped. Then, despite himself, Adrian exhaled a laugh, short, unwilling. "At least no one will dare insult my assistant again." Eli managed a sheepish smile. "Silver lining? Bronze at best," Adrian corrected. The two surveyed the wrecked field in silence. Then Eli murmured, "Maybe next time I should just stay in the tent." Adrian gave him a sidelong look. "That might be the wisest thing you've ever said." Still, a faint smirk tugged at his lips. "But admit it, Rowan. You make a terrifying general." Eli's ears went red. "I don't think that's a compliment." "Oh, it is in my army. Fear is love," Adrian said dryly. "Then your soldiers must adore you," Eli replied. Adrian glanced at the unconscious heap before them. "They do." Enthusiastically. Chapter 6. Heatwave. The summer sun was merciless. Even the wind felt like breath from a forge as the supply unit trudged down the narrow mountain path. Adrian, still trapped in his Omega body, rode behind the wagons with a map in hand and a headache pulsing behind his eyes. Something was wrong. He'd felt off all morning. Too warm, heartbeat too fast, the world too bright. He told himself it was exhaustion. It had to be. But then the scent started. subtle at first like honey melting over steel. His stomach twisted. "Not now, I refuse," he muttered, gripping the reins. When they stopped to rest, Eli approached on horseback, smiling faintly. "You're pale. You should drink something." Adrian waved him off. "I'm fine." Eli frowned. "You're sweating." "It's hot." "Not that hot." Adrian's sharp retort died in his throat as another wave hit, heat curling low and deep, searing through his limbs. He gasped, doubling over. The scent burst out uncontrolled, sweet and dizzying. "General!" Eli dismounted instantly. "Adrian? Stay back!" Adrian rasped, stumbling away. "It's just heat exhaustion." But his knees buckled, and he barely made it to the edge of a nearby stream before collapsing to his knees. Cool water lapped at his hands as he tried to breathe, to hold himself together, suppress it, control it. He'd endured battle wounds, broken bones, poison. This should have been nothing. But the Omega instincts weren't listening. His body trembled, scent spilling out like wildflowers in storm air. Eli crouched beside him, panicked. "Adrian, what's happening?" Adrian's voice shook. "Don't. Come closer." "Why?" "Because I can't control." Another wave hit, and he bit back a cry. His scent flared, overwhelming, sweet and burning. "Damn it." Eli hesitated only a moment before acting. "I read about this," he muttered, pressing a steady hand to Adrian's shoulder. "Alpha pheromones can calm it down. Don't you dare." Too late. Eli's pheromones rolled out, deep and grounding, enveloping the chaotic sweetness like earth after rain. The reaction was immediate. Adrian froze, breath catching, the two scents colliding and blending until the air itself seemed to hum. Their eyes met. Eli's gold bright and worried, Adrian's wide and trembling. The tension crackled, painful and alive. "Eli, stop." Adrian whispered. "I'm trying," Eli said hoarsely. "But it's reacting to yours." The air thickened further, their synchronized scents looping and merging in invisible spirals. Every breath they took was shared, every pulse echoing in rhythm. Adrian's body shuddered again. This time not from pain, but from something dangerously close to relief. "Breathe," Eli murmured. Adrian did, shaky and uneven, leaning slightly against him before realizing what he'd done. "Don't touch." But Eli didn't move. "You'll burn yourself out." "Then let me, I can't. Take this humiliation," Adrian whispered, eyes shut. "It's not humiliation. It's just being human." Eli's voice softened, steady despite his racing heart. That simple kindness undid him. Without thinking, Adrian leaned closer, his forehead brushing Eli's shoulder. The contact sent a quiet shock through both of them. Instinct, trust, scent. Their bodies synced completely, breathing as one. For a heartbeat, the world fell silent. Only the stream murmured nearby, cool against fevered skin. When Adrian finally looked up, his expression was unreadable. Half defiance, half surrender. "You shouldn't have done that," he whispered. Eli's hand lingered against his cheek, steadying him. "You'd have collapsed alone." Adrian stared at him for a long moment. Then, quietly, without thinking, pressed a trembling kiss against Eli's jaw. A breath, nothing more, but enough to make the air shiver. "Thank you," he murmured, voice barely audible. "Just don't speak of this." Eli swallowed hard. "Of course." They stayed like that for a while, two soldiers kneeling by the stream, the scent of heat and rain curling between them, something wordless and dangerous taking root. When Adrian finally pulled away, his eyes were calmer, though his face burned crimson. "If anyone asks, I fell," he said stiffly. Eli gave a faint smile. "Into a stream?" "Into trouble, apparently." By nightfall, the air between them still carried that faint mix of warmth and calm, mutual sense synchronization, subtle but unbreakable. Neither mentioned it again. But when their gazes met across the fire, it lingered, like a secret heartbeat neither could ignore. Chapter 7. The Border Ambush. The warning came at dawn. An arrow through the tent flap, quivering beside Eli's borrowed armor. "Attack from the east!" someone shouted outside. Adrian jolted upright, still pale from the aftermath of his heat. "Eli," he rasped, already pulling on boots far too big for his smaller body. "They've found us." Eli, massive, golden-eyed, still struggling to adjust to the weight of Adrian's alpha frame, grabbed the nearest sword. "How many?" "Enough to crush us if you hesitate. We can't retreat. You'll lead the front line." Adrian shoved a map toward him. "Me?" Eli blinked. "I've never." "You're me now," Adrian cut in, voice sharp but trembling at the edges. "You can. Just follow my orders." Outside, the camp was already in chaos. The eastern hills burned with enemy torches, their horns echoing across the valley. Soldiers scrambled for weapons, staring in confusion at the general's Omega assistant, barking commands beside the towering figure of their general. Adrian climbed onto a supply crate to be seen. "Shields to the front. Archers take the ridge. You, wake the reserves." His voice cracked, but authority radiated from every syllable. Eli turned to him, tense. "And you?" "I'll coordinate from here." Adrian pressed a hand to his temple, focusing through the haze. His body still ached, scent faintly sweet in the heated wind. "Don't let them surround the left flank. They'll faint there first." Eli nodded. "Got it." Then he was gone, charging into the chaos like a storm in borrowed skin. The enemy hit fast. Steel clashed, arrows screamed overhead. Eli swung the blade with surprising precision, each motion guided by instinct and training he didn't remember learning but felt buried in muscle memory. So this is his strength, he thought, parrying a strike that would have split him in half. It's terrifying. Across the camp, Adrian barked orders until his voice went hoarse. His soldiers obeyed without question, though a few exchanged uneasy glances. The Omega assistant commanded like a seasoned general, and the real general fought like a newborn berserker. A lieutenant stumbled over, panting. "We're losing ground on the left." Adrian's heart lurched. "Signal Eli, no, the general, to fall back to the ridge." But before the order could go out, Eli broke formation entirely. He'd seen a line of archers taking aim at Adrian's position, and something primal, protective, ignited inside him. He roared, the sound so powerful it made even seasoned soldiers flinch. Then he sprinted forward, closing the distance with unnatural speed, swinging the blade in a wide arc that shattered their line. Arrows scattered harmlessly into the dirt. When the dust settled, the enemy began to withdraw, confused by the ferocity of their own ambush-turned-disaster. Silence fell, broken only by labored breathing and the crackle of smoldering tents. Eli stood at the center of the wreckage, chest heaving, golden eyes wild. His sword arm trembled. Did we win?" Adrian stumbled toward him, clutching his side, exhaustion written across every feature. "You broke 3 units on your own," he said, voice thin but steady. "So yes, barely." Eli managed a shaky laugh. "You make it sound easy when you say it." Adrian glared up at him. "You disobeyed my direct order. I saved your life." "That's not the point." Adrian's voice cracked again, more emotion than anger. "You're supposed to think, not throw yourself at danger." Eli lowered his gaze, guilt flickering in his expression. "I couldn't watch them aim at you." The words hung heavy between them. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Adrian sighed, rubbing his temple. "You fought well, reckless fool." Eli smiled faintly. "I learned from the best." Around them, soldiers began to cheer, the sound hesitant at first, then swelling into full-throated victory. Some called the general's name. Others whispered about the strange unity between commander and assistant. Adrian tried to straighten, but his knees wobbled. Eli caught him before he fell. The contact sent a quiet echo of their shared synchronization through both of them. Calming, grounding, too intimate to ignore. "Careful, you're still weak," Eli murmured. "I'm fine. Just get me back to camp," Adrian muttered, though his cheeks flushed pink. Eli nodded and guided him through the smoke and wreckage. Soldiers saluted as they passed, their expressions filled with awe and confusion. By the time they reached Adrian's tent, the sky had turned red with sunset. The air smelled of ash and blood, and something else, something alive and electric between them. Adrian sank onto the cot, finally exhaling. That was idiotic. Eli smiled tiredly, but effective. Adrian met his eyes, grudging respect softening his tone. Don't get used to it. Outside, the camp buzzed with recovery. Inside, for the first time, they shared silence without tension. Two warriors, two hearts, one impossible secret. Chapter 8. The Captured Spy. They found the sorcerer at dusk, dragged from the forest by scouts, wrists bound, eyes gleaming with strange amusement. Eli stood tall in Adrian's alpha body, sword drawn. You were among the raiders. Why attack a retreating army? He said, voice low. The prisoner smirked. Orders, of course. You have something our master wants. His gaze slid toward Adrian, small, tense, still wearing Eli's face. Or rather, someone. Adrian folded his arms, trying to appear imposing despite his current stature. You mean the relic? The sorcerer's grin widened. Ah, so you felt its effects. Eli exchanged a glance with him. You know what it did? No? I crafted the curse. The sorcerer chuckled darkly. In a heartbeat, Eli slammed him against a tent post. Undo it. The man only laughed harder. You think strength comes without consequence? The relic was forged to punish those who misunderstand power. His voice dropped to a hiss. To know true strength, one must live in the other's skin. Adrian froze. The words struck too close. So this body swap, this entire ordeal is deliberate? The sorcerer's grin turned sharp. An exchange of essence. A reflection. You, the mighty alpha who never bowed, now trapped in fragility. And your timid omega, wielding the strength you worship. Eli's grip faltered. Then how do we reverse it? The sorcerer's eyes gleamed with malice. When balance is achieved of soul and scent. Until then, you'll remain beautifully broken. Adrian stepped forward. What does that mean? But the sorcerer only laughed. You'll know when you stop fighting what you are. Eli shoved him back into the guard's hold. Take him to the cells, he said tightly. As the prisoner was dragged away, Adrian paced in frustration. Balance of soul and scent, he muttered. That could mean anything. Eli ran a hand through his hair. Maybe emotional balance? Acceptance. Adrian shot him a sharp look. Acceptance of what? That I'm a trembling omega now. Maybe not that, but maybe acceptance of each other. Eli said softly. Adrian blinked, thrown off by the gentle sincerity in his tone. Don't start sounding like a poet, Rowan. Eli smiled faintly. You'd prefer I sound like you? I'd prefer you stop making sense, Adrian grumbled, but his ears were pink. A soldier entered the tent, saluting. General, the prisoner's locked up, but he's demanding to speak again. Adrian sighed. What now? He says the relic reacts to pheromones. Both men froze. Adrian's expression darkened. Tell him to choke on his own magic. But curiosity burned through Eli's calm. Wait, if that's true, maybe the synchronization during your heat wasn't just coincidence. Adrian groaned, burying his face in his hands. Don't remind me. Eli, to his credit, managed to keep his tone even. It could be part of this balance. Our bodies are already sinking. Maybe our scents have to align completely. Adrian looked up, horrified. You're suggesting we intentionally? No, absolutely not. Eli lifted a brow. Do you want to stay like this forever? I'd rather wrestle a dragon. Eli's lips curved in a small, teasing smile. You'd lose. Adrian glared. You're enjoying this far too much. Before Eli could reply, thunder cracked outside. The scent of rain mingled with smoke as the camp settled for the night. Somewhere in the distance, the captured sorcerer's laughter echoed through the storm, low and knowing. Adrian turned away from the tent flap, voice low. Balance of soul and scent. Eli stepped closer. We'll figure it out, sir. Adrian's eyes lifted to meet his, tired, guarded, but no longer cold. If we don't, Rowan, I'll personally haunt that sorcerer in the afterlife. Eli's soft chuckle broke the tension. I'll make sure you get there with proper paperwork. Don't push your luck, Adrian muttered, but his lips twitched in reluctant amusement. Outside, rain began to fall, washing the blood from the earth. Inside the tent, two mismatched souls stood in silence. Still trapped, still uncertain, but closer than they'd admit. The relic on the table pulsed faintly in the dark, as if listening. Chapter 9. The Journey North. Snow fell in slow, endless spirals, swallowing the horizon. The northern pass stretched before them, white, silent, merciless. Eli adjusted his pack, the heavy weight barely bothering Adrian's strong alpha body. He glanced back at the smaller figure trudging behind him. You should ride, he called. Adrian, wrapped in furs that dwarfed his current Omega frame, scowled. I'm not helpless. You nearly tripped over your own blanket. That was deliberate reconnaissance of the terrain, Adrian said flatly. Eli laughed softly, the sound muffled by wind. Of course it was, sir. For days they climbed higher, through frost-bitten valleys and pine forests choked with mist. Each night they made camp beside dwindling fires, huddling under one tent when the temperature dropped too low for pride. At first Adrian had refused. I'll manage alone, he'd said, teeth chattering. But an hour later, Eli found him shivering in his blanket, lips pale. Without a word, Eli pulled him close, sharing the alpha warmth that radiated like a steady flame. Now it had become routine, silent, practical, almost comfortable. Almost. By the fifth night, the storm howled like wolves. Their tent shook. Eli tightened the ties while Adrian tended to the sputtering fire. Supplies won't last long. If the snow doesn't stop, we'll need to ration, Eli said quietly. Adrian didn't look up. You think I can't handle a little hunger? Eli hesitated. It's not the hunger I'm worried about. The air between them thickened, sweet, faintly sharp. Adrian froze. He knew that scent too well by now. Not again, not now, he whispered. Eli's eyes softened. Your cycle's starting? Adrian pressed a hand to his chest, breathing unsteadily. I thought I had another day. Damn it. Within minutes, the Omega scent spread, rich and aching. Adrian clenched his fists, furious at his own body. Don't come closer. Eli stayed still, calm despite the instinct tugging at him. Breathe through it, you don't have to fight it alone, he said gently. I said stay back. Adrian's voice cracked. His cheeks flushed crimson as the wave hit harder, warmth curling down his spine. He curled in on himself, trembling. Eli hesitated only a second before crossing the space between them, kneeling at his side. Adrian, he said softly, steady. Look at me. Adrian's gaze lifted, dilated, furious, scared. You shouldn't. Eli exhaled slowly, letting his alpha scent roll out, firm but careful. The air shifted, their pheromones mingling until the storm outside seemed to fade. Adrian's trembling eased, his breathing syncing unconsciously with Eli's. That's it, you're safe, Eli murmured. Adrian sagged forward, forehead brushing Eli's shoulder. His voice came out small. This is humiliating. No, this is human, Eli said, barely above a whisper. For a moment, neither moved. The warmth between them was intimate but steady, no tension, no demand, just quiet understanding. Then Adrian laughed weakly against his chest. You're infuriatingly gentle, Rowan. Eli smiled faintly. Someone has to be, sir. When the worst passed, Adrian finally relaxed fully, exhaustion overtaking embarrassment. Eli tucked the blanket around him, careful not to meet his eyes. Sleep, he murmured. Adrian's voice was slurred with fatigue. You'll freeze. I'll live. Adrian shifted slightly, then hesitantly, reached out, fingers brushing Eli's sleeve. Then stay, he murmured. Just stay. Eli's heart stuttered. Always, General. Outside, snow blanketed the mountains in silence. Inside, The two of them lay back to back beneath shared warmth, their mingled scents soft and steady, pulsing in quiet harmony. By dawn, the storm had cleared. The first sunlight spilled across the tent, golden against the frost. Adrian stirred awake, his head resting against Eli's arm. For once, he didn't pull away immediately. Eli smiled sleepily. "Morning." Adrian blinked, disoriented, then groaned. "If anyone saw us like this, they'd probably salute," Eli said, too tired to be flustered. Adrian sighed, then, unexpectedly, laughed. "You're impossible." Eli glanced at him, eyes warm. "And yet, you keep me around." Adrian didn't answer. He didn't need to. The quiet between them said enough. Somewhere deep in his chest, where pride and fear once warred, something fragile began to thaw. Chapter 10. The Town of Shadows. After days of trudging through snow and silence, they saw it. Smoke curling from hidden chimneys, faint lights glowing between the trees. "The map didn't show this place," Eli murmured, lowering his hood. Adrian narrowed his eyes. "No banners, no guards. A ghost village?" His voice dropped, but as they descended, laughter echoed faintly from the valley. Children chased one another through the snow. A pair of alphas hauled firewood beside an Omega blacksmith who shouted orders at them like a general. Eli blinked. "They're working together?" Adrian stared. "Without ranks." Before they could question further, a woman approached, broad-shouldered, gray-haired, with an easy smile that carried no fear. "Travelers?" she asked. "Welcome to the Vale of Shadows. You look half-frozen." Eli bowed instinctively. "We're seeking shelter and information about a relic." She tilted her head. "We don't ask questions here, only share food and warmth. But the healer might know something." Her eyes twinkled. They followed her through winding lanes where alphas and omegas mingled freely. No collars, no posturing. Adrian's every instinct screamed impossible. Omegas walked tall. Alphas laughed without dominance. Even scent interactions flowed gently, mutual, balanced. Adrian muttered, "This breaks every rule of structure, discipline." Eli smiled faintly. "Maybe that's why it works." The healer's hut smelled of herbs and warmth. Inside, an older Omega stirred something in a pot. "Ah," he said without turning. "The travelers who carry two souls in the wrong shells." Adrian froze. "How?" The healer chuckled. "Your scents tell the story before your mouths do." He gestured for them to sit. "I know the relic's mark. A curse born from pride." Eli leaned forward. "Can it be undone?" "Eventually," the healer said. "When your instincts no longer fight but flow together. Balance, not dominance." Adrian scowled. "Everyone keeps speaking in riddles. Because truth offends generals, you see strength as control. But control without compassion is brittle." The healer said mildly. Adrian opened his mouth to retort, but stopped. For the first time, he had no answer. Over the next few days, they stayed in the village to rest and learn. Eli helped the healer mix potions and calm over-energized alphas during scent imbalance. "You're a natural," the healer remarked as Eli soothed a trembling young alpha with a careful pulse of pheromones. Eli smiled awkwardly. "I just listen to how they breathe." "That's what most alphas forget to do," the healer said. Meanwhile, Adrian watched from a distance, unsettled. Eli carried himself with quiet authority, nothing like the nervous soldier he'd once been. When villagers greeted him with respect, Adrian felt something unsteady stir in his chest. One evening, he sat beside the fire, watching a group of children play. A little Omega girl handed him a carved wooden toy. "You look sad, mister." Adrian blinked. "Do I?" She nodded. "You smell like someone who's scared to be happy." The words hit harder than any sword. Later that night, when Eli returned, Adrian sat staring into the flames. "This place," he began, voice low. "It shouldn't work, but it does." Eli knelt beside him. "Because they stopped believing one scent has to rule the other." Adrian's hands tightened on his knees. "All my life, I believed strength meant standing above others. But they're stronger together." Eli's eyes softened. You're learning balance, General. Adrian snorted. Don't sound so proud. I am proud you're trying. Eli said quietly. Adrian met his gaze, something warm flickering there. You think I'm worth the effort? Eli smiled. I wouldn't still be here if you weren't. For a long time, they sat in silence, the snow whispering outside, the fire casting soft light across their mismatched forms. Adrian finally exhaled. When we fix this, he stopped, uncertain. I'll remember this place. Eli tilted his head. The people or the peace? Both, Adrian admitted. Outside, bells rang faintly through the valley. Gentle, welcoming, without command. For the first time in years, Adrian Vale didn't feel like a soldier or a general. Just a man learning how to breathe. Chapter 11. The Festival Accident. The Veil of Shadows came alive beneath the full moon. Lanterns swayed from every rooftop, and the air shimmered with the mingled hum of pheromones. Warm, dizzying, intoxicating. Eli had been warned. The Moon Festival celebrates unity of scent. Everyone releases freely. No dominance, no shame. Adrian, however, had not been properly warned. He stood at the edge of the square, wrapped in his cloak, jaw tight. This, he muttered, is madness. They're all leaking scent like perfume. Eli smiled. It's tradition, a way to show trust. It's chaos. Before he could retreat, a pair of laughing villagers shoved fragrant garlands into his hands. For your partner, they cried. Adrian sputtered. He's not. Eli just grinned. Just go with it, sir. As music swelled, the crowd began to dance. Heat from 100 mingling pheromones filled the air, sweet, spicy, cloying. Adrian's pulse jumped. He tried to steady his breathing, but the overload sent his control spiraling. His own omega scent, normally faint, flared like wildfire. Nearby alphas turned in confusion. Who? That scent. Eli felt it first. A sharp wave of sweetness that hit his senses like lightning. He turned and saw Adrian trembling, eyes glazed, pupils wide. Oh no, Eli muttered. Adrian clutched his cloak tighter. Don't come closer. Too late, we're leaving, Eli said, grabbing his wrist. They pushed through the crowd, but whispers followed. That Omega, he's syncing with someone. Who's his alpha? Eli pulled him into a narrow alley behind the lantern stalls. Adrian leaned against the wall, breathing hard. I told you this place was dangerous, he rasped. You're reacting to the pheromone field. Just focus on me. Block out the rest. Eli said quickly. Adrian glared weakly. That's not how scent suppression works, genius. Eli didn't think. He just released his own scent, firm and steady. The signature of an alpha claiming calm over chaos. It rolled through the alley like warm smoke. Adrian gasped, his trembling easing as their pheromones met, merging in perfect synchrony. For one breathless moment, everything stilled. Adrian's voice was barely a whisper. You're stabilizing me again. Eli swallowed. Yeah, seems to be the only thing that works. Adrian's eyes lifted, molten under the moonlight. You're far too good at this for a supposed Omega. I had a good teacher. Flattery won't save you, Adrian murmured. Yet he didn't move away. The air thickened, close, heady, electric. The tension that had been simmering for weeks rose to the surface. Eli, Adrian began, but his voice faltered when Eli's scent flared again. Protective, warm, wanting. Their foreheads brushed. The world shrank to breath and heartbeat. Adrian, Eli whispered, they're going to find us if. Let them, Adrian breathed back. For one suspended second, it felt like gravity itself tilted toward each other. But before either could cross that fragile line, a loud shout broke the spell. General, sir, the healer says the soup's on fire. Eli jerked back, face burning. We will handle it. Adrian blinked, flustered, then groaned into his hands. Perfect. Now the entire village thinks we were saving you from overheating, Eli said quickly. By pinning me to a wall? It worked, didn't it? Adrian opened his mouth, then laughed. Short, incredulous. You're impossible. Eli smiled, still flushed. You keep saying that. As they walked back into the lantern glow, villagers greeted them with knowing smirks and murmured blessings for a harmonious bond. Adrian muttered, "If one more person congratulates me on our union, I'm defecting." Eli's quiet chuckle followed him. "Then I guess I'll have to defect too." Adrian glanced sideways, eyes softening despite himself. "You'd really follow me that far?" "Always," Eli said simply. The night carried on, laughter and music swirling around them, but their shared scent lingered, steady, synchronized, unmistakably intertwined. And though neither would admit it aloud, the festival had changed something between them, something neither battle nor pride could undo. Chapter 12, Confession Under Fire. The first explosion shattered the peace. Adrian jolted awake to the sound of screams and fire bells. Smoke curled through the night air, turning the festival's lantern glow into a hellish blaze. "Enemy attack!" someone shouted. He grabbed the nearest weapon, a short blade far too heavy for his borrowed Omega arms, and staggered outside. The sky was burning. "Eli!" he shouted. From the square, a roar answered him, his voice, but filled with fury. Eli, wearing Adrian's alpha body, had already charged into the fray. The air around him crackled with dominance pheromones as he tore through enemy soldiers like a storm given shape. "Get back!" Eli bellowed, swinging a sword that glinted crimson. "Show off," Adrian muttered, but pride flared in his chest. He turned toward the falling roofs, pulling frightened villagers from the wreckage. His body trembled with exertion, yet he refused to stop. A child cried nearby. Adrian dropped his blade, lifting debris with trembling hands. "Go run north. The mountains will shield you," he told the mother. An enemy soldier lunged from the smoke. Adrian barely had time to raise his arm when Eli was suddenly there, intercepting the strike. Steel met steel with a shower of sparks. "Are you trying to die again?" Eli snapped. "I was saving civilians, General. That's what leaders do." Adrian shot back. Their gazes met, one fierce, one steady, and for a heartbeat, the battlefield noise fell away. Then another explosion threw them apart. The attack pressed harder. The village gate began to collapse under the enemy's siege engines. Adrian, panting, yelled orders as best he could. "Pull back to the inner square. Form ranks." Eli obeyed instinctively, cutting down attackers while shouting the same commands Adrian would have. It was eerie hearing his own voice echo his thoughts. When the final wave struck, they found themselves cornered in the temple ruins, fire painting everything gold and red. Eli stood protectively before Adrian, blade trembling. "We can't hold them off much longer," he said, tone grim. "Then we die together," Adrian murmured. Eli turned sharply. "Don't joke like that." Adrian smiled faintly. "Who's joking?" For a moment, only the sound of crackling fire filled the silence. Eli's shoulders trembled. "You don't understand," he said, voice breaking. "I don't want this to end. Not just the battle, I don't want to go back if it means losing what we've built." Adrian froze. "Eli, I was supposed to learn from you?" Eli went on, stepping closer, eyes bright even through smoke. "But you changed me. You made me want to be strong, not just for your sake, but because you believed I could be." The world narrowed to the space between them. Adrian's heartbeat was thunder in his ears. "You idiot! You think I want to go back and forget this?" he whispered, voice thick. Eli blinked. Then, Adrian didn't let him finish. He grabbed Eli's collar, his own collar, technically, and pulled him down into a fierce, breathless kiss. It wasn't graceful. It was desperate, messy, full of everything they hadn't said. When they broke apart, the air between them pulsed with heat and smoke. Adrian's voice trembled. "We'll fix this curse. But I'm not losing you either." Eli laughed softly, even as tears streaked through soot. "Then I'll follow your orders, General." "Good. Then fight beside me." Adrian said, drawing his blade again. They turned together back to back as the enemy rushed in. Their movements were imperfect, mismatched, one alpha heart, one omega soul. Yet somehow they moved as one. And in that burning village, amid the chaos and ruin, something inside the relic pulsing at Adrian's belt began to glow again. Faint, steady, like a promise. Chapter 13. The Relic's Truth. The battlefield had gone still. Ash hung in the air like gray snow as the smoke cleared from what used to be the enemy stronghold. Eli stood at the edge of the ruined camp, his borrowed alpha body covered in soot and blood. His sword arm ached, but his focus was fixed on the faint golden light flickering within a shattered tent ahead. Adrian, he called, voice hoarse. Adrian appeared beside him, smaller, unsteady, wrapped in a tattered cloak. The omega body he inhabited looked fragile in the dawn light, but his eyes were steady. That glow, it's the same as before, he murmured. Inside the tent lay a stone disk, identical to the relic that had cursed them. Only this one pulsed like a living heart. Adrian knelt beside it. The twin relic if we destroy it, he said. Or if we understand it, Eli interrupted softly. He glanced at Adrian, brow furrowed. We should try that first. Adrian gave him a dry look. You've gotten bolder. Blame your influence, Eli said, lips quirking faintly. Adrian reached out, fingers brushing the relic's surface. It flared in response, light spilling between them like a thread connecting their hands. Suddenly the air thickened, a rush of scent and memory flooding their senses. Eli staggered. Adrian, what's... The relic's reacting, Adrian gasped. The glow pulsed faster, echoing the rhythm of their heartbeats. His omega scent bloomed, soft and sweet, clashing and twining with the sharp, grounding alpha notes rolling off Eli. The ground trembled. Voices whispered in the wind. Ancient, cold, yet familiar. To know true strength, you must live in the other's skin. To return, you must find balance of soul and scent. Eli gritted his teeth. Balance, so it's us. Not the magic. Adrian's breath caught. Then what does it mean? The relic's light intensified, forcing them to meet each other's eyes. Eli took a step closer. It means we stop hating what we became. His voice trembled. You keep fighting the omega body like it's shameful. I keep pretending I'm not terrified of being you. Maybe that's what it's asking us to fix. Adrian's lips parted, protest dying in his throat. The truth of it hit too hard. I thought strength meant never bending, but when I was weak, you carried me. When you were scared, I trusted you. Maybe strength was never about what body I had. He whispered. Eli smiled, tired, gentle, radiant. You finally sound like the man I fell for. Adrian's eyes widened. You! I said what I said, you can yell later. Eli interrupted, cheeks flushing even through soot. Adrian's laugh broke on a breath. You've learned defiance well. He stepped closer, so close their pheromones intertwined. Not in battle this time, but in quiet harmony. The relic glowed brighter, golden lines wrapping around their joined hands. I love who I became with you, even if it ends here, Adrian murmured. Then let's not let it end, Eli whispered. He leaned forward, forehead touching Adrian's. Mutual acceptance, right? The relic flared one last time, a blinding burst of gold that swallowed them whole. Heat surged, wind howled, and for a moment Adrian felt weightless. Body and soul spinning, melting, then snapping back into place. When the light faded, silence reigned. Eli blinked, gasping. His hands, smaller now, trembling, were his own again. Across from him, Adrian stood tall, armor heavy, his alpha frame steady and strong. They stared at each other in disbelief, then laughter broke from both at once. Half relief, half wonder. It worked, Eli whispered. Adrian reached out, cupping his face with a calloused hand. We did it together, he said softly. Their scents lingered in the morning air, no longer clashing, but perfectly in sync. The relic lay dark between them, its purpose complete. For the first time since the curse began, neither of them felt incomplete. Chapter 14. The Return. The storm began the moment the relic cracked. Winds howled across the valley, tearing through the ruins of the enemy camp. Lightning split the sky, silver fire illuminating two silhouettes clinging to each other at the storm's heart. Adrian's grip tightened around Eli's shoulders. "Hold on," he shouted over the thunder. "I'm not letting go." Eli yelled back, voice trembling. The relic between them pulsed one final time, its light searing through the air like molten gold. Then the world flipped. The pressure vanished. The storm collapsed inward, leaving silence. Then the faint patter of rain. Adrian blinked, gasping. The scent that filled his lungs was his own sharp cedar and steel. His armor weighed properly again. His stance felt grounded. But something was missing. He turned. Eli was kneeling nearby, breathing hard, small shoulders shaking. The sight of him, truly him, made Adrian's throat tighten. He looked fragile again, yes, but there was steadiness in his gaze that hadn't been there before. "Eli," Adrian said softly. Eli looked up, and when their eyes met, both froze. Recognition struck like lightning. Not just of faces, but of everything they'd shared. "It worked," Eli whispered. His voice, his own voice, sounded almost foreign to his ears. Adrian nodded, stepping forward. It did. They stared at each other, unsure whether to laugh or cry. Then, suddenly, Adrian reached out and pulled Eli into a fierce embrace. Eli gasped. "General, don't call me that, not right now." Adrian murmured into his hair. The rain softened around them. Eli's scent, warm and sweet, like rain-soaked earth, drifted between them, and Adrian realized how much he'd grown used to it. Without that scent filling his lungs, his body felt colder. He loosened his hold, searching Eli's face. "You're trembling. You're the one shaking," Eli countered quietly. Adrian gave a rough laugh. "I suppose I am." For a moment, neither spoke. The world was still, their hearts loud in their chests. Then Eli stepped closer, fingertips brushing the edge of Adrian's gauntlet. "You look different, bigger than I remember," Eli said, eyes soft. Adrian smirked faintly. "And you look exactly as I remember. Except now I know what it feels like to be you." Eli's cheeks colored. "That's embarrassing. It's humbling. You faced everything I never could. Pain, fear, fragility, and you never broke. You made me see the kind of strength I'd been blind to." Adrian corrected, voice low. Eli swallowed hard. "And you taught me not to run, even when I was terrified." The distance between them vanished. Adrian's hand rose to Eli's cheek. Eli leaned into the touch without hesitation. "Feels strange being myself again. Heavier, colder," Adrian murmured. Eli smiled faintly. "Then borrow some warmth." Adrian didn't think, he simply obeyed. Their lips met, slow this time, steady, no desperation. Just the quiet recognition of everything they'd survived. It wasn't a kiss born of confusion or magic, but of choice. When they finally parted, Adrian rested his forehead against Eli's. "Equal footing, then?" Eli nodded. "Always." The wind eased. The storm clouds broke, letting a sliver of sunlight fall over them. Around them, the world felt new, sharp and alive, as if it too had been waiting for their return. Adrian exhaled, the last tension leaving his body. "Let's go home." Eli smiled, small but certain. "Lead the way, General Vale." This time, Adrian didn't correct him. He only reached out his hand, and when Eli took it, their joined sense mingled, balanced, calm, perfectly synchronized. The Iron General had fallen once, but what stood now wasn't just a soldier. It was a man who had finally learned how to feel. Chapter 15. Epilogue. 2 Generals. The war ended with spring. Snow melted from the northern passes, rivers bloomed back to life, and for the first time in years, the banners of the Vale Command fluttered without the smell of blood in the air. "Report from the West Garrison, General Vale," said a young officer. bowing as Adrian signed off a stack of orders. The new Omega recruits are settling well. No disciplinary issues. Adrian glanced up. Good. Make sure they're given equal rations and training time. The officer hesitated. Sir, some of the older captains still think Omegas belong in supply tents? Then remind them I said otherwise. Adrian's tone softened, but his eyes were sharp. Yes, sir. When the officer left, Adrian leaned back, stretching. The sunlight through the tent flap glinted off his armor. Polished, not for battle now, but ceremony. Strange, he thought. He'd once worn it like a second skin. Now it felt almost ornamental. Still scaring your men? Came a familiar voice. Adrian turned to find Eli leaning against the doorway, wearing his new uniform, commander's insignia stitched in silver. He looked relaxed, confident, and entirely at home in his own skin. Someone has to maintain discipline, Adrian replied. Eli smirked. You mean you like having the last word? Force of habit. Eli stepped closer, dropping a stack of papers onto Adrian's desk. I brought the revised training schedule. My unit's ready for inspection. Adrian raised an eyebrow. Your unit? I'm a general too now? Or did you forget? Eli reminded him. Adrian chuckled. A rare, quiet sound that still startled some of the soldiers outside when they overheard it. I suppose I didn't. They worked in companionable silence for a while, the flap of the tent catching a warm breeze. Eli's scent, gentle, steady, grounding, mingled with Adrian's sharp cedar undertone. It was so familiar now that the camp dogs lazed peacefully whenever they were near. Even the soldiers stopped pretending they didn't notice. When Adrian finally looked up, Eli was watching him with a teasing glint. You know, you were a cute Omega, General. Eli said casually. Adrian nearly choked on his tea. I what? Small, stubborn, constantly glaring. I kind of miss it. Eli went on, grinning. Adrian set down his cup with exaggerated care. Say that again and I'll assign you to latrine duty. Eli laughed. You'd never. You're too soft now. Soft? I could still outspar every soldier in camp. Adrian stood, feigning outrage. Oh, I don't doubt it, Eli said, stepping close until their shoulders brushed. But that's not the kind of soft I meant. Their eyes met, calm, warm, unguarded. For once, Adrian didn't look away. You're insufferable, he murmured. And you love it, Eli replied, smile widening. Outside, two passing recruits paused by the tent. A faint laugh, a soft hum of mingled pheromones drifted through the air, enough to make them flush and hurry on. Inside, Adrian sighed and finally gave up pretending. He reached out, tugging Eli against him with one arm. You're impossible, he said quietly. Efficiently impossible, Eli corrected, resting his head on Adrian's shoulder. The camp was peaceful for the first time in memory. Drills humming in rhythm, soldiers laughing instead of shouting. Somewhere, a banner fluttered high. Two generals of the Vale Command. Eli's voice broke the quiet. Do you ever miss it? The swap? Adrian asked. Eli nodded. Adrian thought for a moment. Sometimes. It taught me what kind of man I wanted to be. Eli smiled softly. Good answer. Yours? Adrian asked. I don't miss the chaos, but I miss seeing your face when you realized you couldn't intimidate anyone at 5'6". Eli said. Adrian groaned. You'll never let that go, will you? Not a chance. They both laughed, real, unrestrained laughter that carried beyond the tent. For all their titles and medals, for all the history that followed them, they remained two soldiers sharing one quiet truth. The Iron General had found his match, and the timid Omega had found his strength. The soldiers called them the twin commanders, but within the tent, they were simply Adrian and Eli. And that was enough.